We've been asking you on the Business Breakfast this morning about your grey market car experiences, and that's because we're going to look at the auto industry now, but not the official one. BillCarter is the Deputy General Manager of Autodata. That's a company that supplies all sorts of statistics and information to all sorts of areas, including the car industry. And he is in the studio to talk about the grey market and the effect that it is having on UAE car sales and the market in general. Bill, it's great to have you in. Thanks very much.
Good morning.
And thank you very much to those who have texted in to talk to us about grey imports. Please keep those texts coming, 4001. Good or bad, let us know what your experience has been or why you've made the decisions when it comes to car buying, official or non-official, that you have. Bill, quick refresher as we start, just 30 seconds. Tell us exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about the grey market.
The grey market, we're basically talking about any vehicle that's imported into this region that is not a GCC specification and has been imported through unofficial channels, so not through the official dealer.
So we can be talking about second-hand cars coming out from the States, or we can be talking about brand new cars coming from other GCC countries.
Yep, not so much the brand new cars from GCC countries. They are classed really as parallel imports. It's the biggest problem by far are grey imports coming in from North America, Europe, both new and used.
Just to define the difference between parallel imports and grey imports.
Yes, the difference between grey and parallel. A parallel import is a GCC specification that has been brought in from one of the other GCC nations, whereas a grey import is a non-GCC specification vehicle that has been brought in from anywhere else in the world.
Well, I've in the past transferred things up and down between Gulf countries, things that I own, and when I've got to the customs in Bahrain, Kuwait, and I think here as well, there have been questions asked about some of the bigger ticket items about whether or not there's an agent for that product, if it looks new or near new in this country, and whether I would have to pay them something because I'm importing it around the bag. So why isn't that done with these cars?
I think it is to a certain degree, but I think the biggest problem is knowing what the vehicle actually is and where it's come from, and this is one of the real big issues that we have. And our insurance company clients, we supply insurance companies with a lot of information, and they're forever on the phone or sending us emails querying about certain vehicles. Is it a grey import or is it an official import?
Okay, so tell us why you think there's an issue with grey imports. Why is this a bad thing? Okay,
first of all, you don't know the history of the vehicle. So it could be a total loss vehicle, even a brand new one. We had a case, a contact of ours in Kuwait who bought 100 pickup trucks from North America. When they actually arrived in Kuwait and he checked them over, they were all flood damaged. So you'll get brand new cars that are total loss, will be sold at auction and then be imported here.
Can you not starve that off a little bit by putting the vehicle identification number into one of those US databases that tracks the history?
You can, but they won't always work. They're not 100% foolproof. And the other problem is, some of those, if you're trying to get that service from outside North America, it won't let you actually get the report unless you've got a North American address and a credit card. So it's very, very difficult to check these. We have a way, because we have a sister company in North America who can check this data for us.
Some of these sort of obvious problems might be from importing cars on the grey market from colder countries where they don't need the air conditioning, the radiators are smaller, they overheat. What are some of the other typical problems?
Well, as you said, they're the most problem. That there's people think that there's no difference between a GCC spec and either a North American or European spec. There are huge differences. There are huge technical differences, purely because of the climate out here. This climate is classed as super hot by the car manufacturers or OEMs. And the problem is, as you say, the air conditioning is not man enough. The cooling system is not man enough. It's got the wrong tyres on. Very often things like radios, speedometers are all wrong. And so some vehicles are actually detuned for this market because of the quality of the fuel. So there are various problems that can come to light.
We have had a number of people texting in, though, saying that they've had good experiences with the grey market. Gorang's written in to say, I had an awesome grey market Mercedes, bought it for 70,000, sold it for 55 2 years later. Pure awesomeness, he says, apart from the odd-numbered radio stations. Is there not a bit of sort of buyer beware in this, if people want a bargain or maybe want something that they can't get here?
Yeah, there is, but it is buyer beware, because it's all relative. If you're buying it cheap, when you come to dispose of it, it's going to be even cheaper. The depreciation on a grey import is much higher than it is on an official import, and they're typically worth between 30 and 40% less than an official import at the time of disposal.
This buyer beware thing is all right, but I recently bought one, and I didn't realise until after it was registered that in fact it was. I bought it from an individual. How would I be able to check that? I mean, to me, I have this problem with the radios on the odd frequencies. I went to the manufacturer and said, can I have it? They said, well, it's an import, and the radio is going to cost you more than the value of the car. And I'm guessing they're just trying to dissuade grey imports. But how do you know?
Well, it is very difficult. We're in the process of checking a service that we're going to launch, if not Q1, certainly Q2, where we will be able to check VIN numbers for both the consumer and the industry, because the industries are having huge problems with these vehicles just turning up. And I say, if you look at the insurance industry alone, the vast majority of insurance companies in the UAE will not insure grey imports.
Which is a problem, obviously, for the people driving them.
It is, yeah. And as I say, like Malcolm, people sometimes don't know until it's too late.
But do our car agencies here not contribute to the problem in other countries? When I first moved here, admittedly, we're talking, when did I have my first car? Maybe 2001, 2002. And I won't name the brand, but it's a big brand. Yeah. I ended up with a problem. I had a hole in the fuel pipe and it leaked and it was all horrendous. Anyway, I went to the dealership. They said, we can't sell it in the UAE. You won't be able to sell this in the UAE. But we can buy it and back off you for next to nothing and ship it to another country and sell it there. And that was through the official dealer. So are we not part of the same problem?
I think we are. It's that the whole industry is in the throes of being cleaned up, because the manufacturers themselves are well aware of this problem. And what they're doing now, if they're finding vehicles are coming in from another market that shouldn't be here, they check those VIN numbers to find out who actually supplied them in the first place, and then they will cut their allocation of build. So the manufacturers themselves are well aware of this issue and are trying to cure it.
Okay, so what can the industry here do to make themselves maybe more attractive, maybe not on price, but on other areas against grey imports?
I think a lot of it is education. It's all about educating the consumer about what the differences are and the problems that they can face. It's getting parts for some of these vehicles. That's a huge issue on some of the vehicles that are coming in from North America and from Europe, for that fact. So it's about educating the consumer what the problems are, what the variations are. Even with parallel imports, people say, well, I can go and buy a certain car from Oman much cheaper. Yes, you probably can, but is it the same specification? Because they're not all the same. Although they're called the same, each region will specify the vehicle to suit their individual market.
Thanks so much for joining us and running us through that this morning. BillCarter is the Deputy General Manager of Autodata. We appreciate your